The applause going.
Thank you.
Yeah, very nice, Jay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds great. Um, let me see. I'm going to try to. Okay, there you are. Great. Sounds wonderful. I love a lot of the characters you're getting in this piece. I think my main thought about it is to explore those even more. Um, there's certain elements that she sets up in this, and we have this kind of groovy thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And sometimes that drops out.
Mm-hmm.
But there are times to be really, really feeling that groove and places to feel released from that, I
Mm-hmm.
think, a bit more. And then some places, even when it's there, I think you can kind of dance around it a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then just going with these characters, and I mean, I was looking through this score. I haven't played this piece. It's great to hear it. But she actually even says quite. It's not. Um, I mean, it's right there in her score. Also, she's suggesting some of these characters and stuff. And I think um, there are ways to be more vivid with them.
Mm-hmm.
You could explore more. So maybe in our time, we can just look at a few places.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the beginning, I liked it a lot. One very brief thing I'll just say is when you have niente,
Mm-hmm.
especially coming from niente, you
Mm-hmm.
really try to come from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Also, one interesting thing I find in this piece is when you're really kind of more soloistic and on top of it, and then the places where you really kind of sink into the texture.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's some beautiful spots also later when you really just become part of this polyphonic thing. So
Mm-hmm.
that's also an element of niente. It's often a bit of a um, I don't know if I'd say a peeve, but a thing that bugs me sometimes is for people to really come from nothing or go to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you can explore that more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then let me see. Well, so from C, that's a place also I think you can become more decorative
Mm-hmm.
and lighter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then from D, right? And then um, particularly from D, I feel when you start having all these 30-second notes, it kind of becomes uh, a little freer in feeling, and that kind of has a release at F.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that place you really can be free. Like you don't have to feel so in a pulse when you're
Mm-hmm.
free. To actually, it's kind of an amazing moment not to have that track there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but even before that, from D, I think you can be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so places to feel like you're not tethered to that pulse so
Mm-hmm.
much. Yeah, because I feel like you at this point you could explore that more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, you want to try just briefly try a little bit that, and then we'll skip.
Mm-hmm. Is it okay if we don't use the
Oh
track?
yeah, without the track, that's fine. Or you want to maybe just for the sake of doing a bit of it just from E.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I mean something for you to experiment with,
Mm-hmm.
like at F, just to I think you can be much more obviously feeling a bit more rubato.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And before that, I think the thing is to think also these longer shapes.
Mm-hmm.
Da, 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 you know, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
singing the top line, right?
Mm-hmm.
Da, 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 da. Yeah, and to go with that, because I'm feeling a lot of this boom, 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 but which is great at the beginning, that we have this kind of groovy, more minimalist sort of feeling. But here
Mm-hmm.
you can start to surge more with the longer shit.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my suggestion anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Develop this,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Because I feel like there's the sections in this piece that are more rhythmic that way, and then these
Mm-hmm.
sections that build, and then later you have that place. I'm going to skip because I'm talking about this right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, well, first of all, at Playful Carefree at 137.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what?
No, it's just that's always an instruction that has confused me slightly.
Yeah,
Perhaps because I'm having so much difficulty just counting it. But
yeah.
yeah, I was wondering what your suggestions were for that.
Well, I mean, it sounded good. I thought to go for that feeling, I felt like with your use of the bow could be a little um, looser. Like I felt like a little more bow speed, like.
Mm. Hmm. Would you
Um,
suggest using more bows in general?
you mean splitting these slurs?
Yeah, some of these slurs are kind of
Maybe,
uneven. Mm-hmm.
maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I would go for, my impression was to go for the less bow speed, but more movement in your bow. Just to,
Mm-hmm.
um, because it started to feel a little angular, maybe because of all these crossings and things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you could um, get more motion
Mm-hmm.
or bow speed into that. And then after that, then I felt like when you're going into N,
Mm-hmm.
um, this is a place also I just feel like the, I mean, she puts exuberant, but I feel like it needs to really have a feeling of release here. And I
Mm-hmm.
felt like you're going for the forte and the volume, which I heard, but rather than just being pressed, it just, you know, da, 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then also just to go for lots of bow and
Mm-hmm.
more abandon in your
Mm-hmm.
bowing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think your notes are all there. I think you could, at this point, you can sort of let loose more.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there are just these places in the piece where there's a feeling of yeah, release from that pulse kind of. So the piece progresses that way. And then when you have calming down, I think maybe you could try something with a smoother stroke, maybe. Da, 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe you want to try a bit of that. I don't know if you want to do the playful bit or you want to do the exuberant.
Uh, is there enough time to do both?
I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
Peter said 5 minutes, but I don't know how long ago that was.
Okay. I mean, I'll just go from playful carefree.
Okay, yeah, try a bit of it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm just gonna stop. That sounded nice to me. I think you can really go for all those the smaller shapes.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
that sounded nice. I stopped you just at M because about the glissandos,
Yes.
and also later. This is my feeling
Mm-hmm.
um, that they should be a little slower.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like, I mean, there are a lot of them in this piece, but I think yeah, sometimes you do them very late, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah. First of all, you don't hear them much
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, and I feel like they could be an actual more expressive
Mm-hmm.
thing. You want to try that?
Mm-hmm.
M.
Uh, is it better,
Uh,
you think, to do it on one finger? I've
oh,
sort of the reason I think I've been doing them so late is because I've been
oh,
kind of doing
I
a
see.
half
Yeah, we
one and
generally
half
do
two.
them on one finger, but just now that was probably slower than. Wow.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit more time, yeah. Just so we have a little time to enjoy the
Mm-hmm.
progress of it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's the idea. Even these dots, when you have separate notes, not too short, just bump, bump, bump.
Mm-hmm. So it's more even still.
Well, maybe. I mean, maybe you can do something that's like, sorry, you know, but not that
A little bit.
there's a
Yes.
bit of, so it's not totally smooth, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Kind of a yeah. Is that closer, you think?
yeah, heavy brushy.
Mm-hmm. Kind of almost like Martelly-ish.
Huh?
A little bit of Martelly.
A little bit. There's
Mm-hmm.
more just like the weight and a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of separation, so you have the articulate. So it's not smooth, but
Mm-hmm.
that was sounding good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you get the volume as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think we have to stop, unfortunately.
Thank you so much.
That's great. Thank you for playing.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, so my name is Lucy, and I, like Peter said, I'm going to be playing a piece that's very new. I've never played a piece of my own in a masterclass like this, so this is a new experience for me. So just really quickly, this is a work in progress, and it's still rather improvisational in nature. I'm more of an improviser, I would say, than a composer. It's called Naked. At least that's the title for now, and it's coming from the place that we're all in now, in the sense, for me at least, of thinking about these moments of safety or comfort that we find, and then being really pulled out of them. So this is based on essentially fragments of a melody that was sung to me when I was a child, and sort of an exploration of that. So yeah, I'll just play it, see how it goes.
And the words are about an animal being taken for slaughter while life goes on. So it's about life and death. And it's about longing for freedom when you're not free. So that's very moving.
And why'd you sing it to me? you sing me the whole thing? Do you remember?
On a wagon bound for market, there's a calf with a mournful eye. High above him there's a swallow winging swiftly through the sky. How the winds are laughing, they laugh with all their might. Laugh and laugh the whole day through and half the summer's night. Donna, 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 donna. Na do na do na do na do.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful, Lucy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's also interesting to me to respond to a new piece and partly improvised one in a masterclass. So
Yeah.
yeah, thinking about what sort of response is helpful. But it's very beautiful. I love all the scordatura works really wonderfully, and I love how it, particularly at the end, I was realizing how it really evokes her singing voice so well. The timbre. Is that your mother's
Yeah,
singing?
it is. Yeah.
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 It goes so beautifully into her voice as well.
Thanks.
And you're using a looper. Is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And it's tricky because I was trying to make it not be in time, which is hard to do with the looping system. But yeah, I'm using I have a MIDI controller on the floor and I'm running the looper through Ableton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought all the percussive aspects of it work really great too. And I know you're also keeping that very free.
Yeah, nebulous.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought a lot of that was really beautiful. Yeah, I think it's very effective. I mean, I'm just thinking about, I mean, the other thing is just you gave me the score, so I'm looking at it. Of course, I'm supposing it's a piece that if you play it more, it will change.
Yeah.
And somebody else does.
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny because obviously this is a very personal piece, but I'm actually very interested in the possibility of someone else playing it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I think that this is a mood or a space that all of us can relate to in one way or another. And so it's very interesting to me to think about how to write this out so that someone else would be able to, in their own way, play it. I obviously want it to be less improvisational than it is right now, but because it's such a new piece, I just haven't totally decided on things yet.
Yeah, I see. Because I was thinking when I was looking at it, I mean, there's a lot of information here and description and stuff, but I figured a lot of that is where you're at in your thinking.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to read through, and like if I was feeling like, well, if I'm trying to play this now, I would be like, okay, there's a lot.
For sure, yeah.
A lot to absorb and think about, but you're also very detailed, and I definitely felt like I was just getting into your mind about like, well, I want this to happen here and how it's going to change and develop. So I'm be interested also in how your score evolves for this. Yeah. Because I imagine also, as you say, if you're going to have it a bit more notated and not as improvised, then some of this can be streamlined, probably.
Yeah, there will be less text as there's more notes.
Yeah, that's what I feel. I mean, I'm generally in favor of composers explaining, and whether it's in the score, descriptive things, or they have a note that's, I mean, your note was also very informative. So it's always helpful because with another person, sometimes you don't know where they're coming from, and you know, the notes on the page could mean so many things. So I'm generally in favor, but I think with this, you could probably find ways to, yeah, condense your intentions with it.
Absolutely.
But I mean, it sounded beautiful. And playing wise, I don't, I mean, my impression is you're getting the sorts of sounds you're after. I was thinking, I don't know if you have any questions about like things you're trying to do.
Yeah,
I'm up to what you're going for.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think I also should have mentioned, as I'm sure you figured out, that I was playing a baritone violin, or a violin with octave strings. I realized I should have said that at the beginning. I've played it with my normal violin as well, and it's cool how the sound is the same and different. I think, yeah, I mean, my biggest question to you from a compositional perspective, and then I have a question from a more playing perspective, is right now the content is very simple, so to speak. You know, it's coming from this Yiddish melody, so it's obviously very simple in that regard, and there aren't that many notes. And I think there's a tension that I'm feeling right now between keeping it sort of in that space of simplicity or adding more. And maybe my question for you from a compositional perspective is, does it need more? Obviously, it needs to be edited and it needs a lot of work, but from a content perspective, I guess, sort of, I'm curious what your opinion on that is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it. I mean, my basic feeling is it's beautiful as is, like the atmosphere it's evoking, and I feel like there's plenty, even when it's sparse, there's like plenty going on in it. I could imagine at some point, I don't know, maybe it was like around in this D area, or that you just went on with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Longer, yeah. and then maybe there it could get a bit more elaborate, and yeah, I could hear that happening. Yeah. But I feel like the overall material, like the feeling of the material as a whole, seems really good to me, and like what you set up and then how it feels. Like I don't feel like the piece as a whole needs to be more.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, from a playing perspective, you know, obviously, I was trained classically, but it's been a long time since I've played, like seriously played classical music, because I'm more studying contemporary stuff and improvisation. So maybe just from a space of extended technique, obviously this piece is really mainly that in and out of these imperfect sounds and the air. But if you have any comments on that element of the piece, I welcome them, or my playing, really.
Yeah, it sounded really nice. I mean, if you're talking about like air, so I think maybe, yeah, it's also a little bit hard to hear the details of that. But my sense is that some of those effects of having more air in the sound are coming out of air or stuff. You could dwell on those more.
Yeah.
My feeling was I was basically hearing pitch most of the time. But I don't know if it's not picking it up quite what you're doing in the room or whatever. But you know, but really, like whatever you're doing, or something that's like, I mean, you wrote in here too about like the imperfect harmonics and stuff, but like something just to give it more time to just sit in that. Or you could add also a little more ponticello.
Yeah.
This sort of thing.
Much more in the soltasto space. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, going for those things, or if you want more things like, you know, this sort of circular bow.
Yeah.
Yeah, in your description too, you were mentioning that, but I feel like you could make that more prominent part of the sound world if
Yeah,
you spend
absolutely.
more time in it. Yeah.
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 Cool. I have a question for you as a if it's okay, as a player who plays a lot of new work. When you see someone asking you to improvise, it's sort of how do you like to engage with the with the question of improvisation in a piece that has a structure and a you know, in a composition, so to speak. Yeah.
Um,
Even as I write this, I do want this piece to maintain some elements of improvisation because of how
Mhm.
personal I want it to be to the player. So
yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah, well, I feel like, I mean, personally, I do always like appreciate the guidance and the input of what, um, yeah, if the composer has, you know, they're not just like do something, but just like, you know, they want a certain sort of development of certain things or a certain shape of things. Personally, I like to have some sort of framework. And I mean, I felt like a lot of your comments and stuff here was very like evocative and helpful. My first impression was just like, well, it's just a lot. So I was just kind of like,
Totally.
wow, this is a lot to think about in a, you know, a minute or whatever this piece. And,
Yeah,
but I
absolutely.
think a lot of these little phrases and stuff were very evocative and helpful. You know, even like you, and you're saying like, I don't know, like move in and out of ideas, don't finish any thought. You know, that's helpful as a sort of a give you some sense of how to shape it, or any of these, um, or keep using this bit of material.
Mm.
But I think you can find a way to say that once, and then I don't know.
No, I completely hear you. I mean, in a way, this score is still in my head as opposed to for somebody else. So that's a really
Yeah,
great
yeah,
comment.
it definitely struck me that way. I felt like, oh, this is her notebook. She's been like jotting down everything, you know.
Yeah.
So it's still in that stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I definitely find for um, yeah, improv and whatever, if the composer has some basic like feeling they want to get from it or shape, it's like great to hear about it. And
Yeah.
yeah, but
Thanks. Thank you. I
yeah, for sharing it.
Yeah, thank you for being willing to listen to something that's such a work in progress.
Oh, yeah.
um, yeah, well, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Great, beautiful, thanks. Um, yeah, I mean, you're playing very well. My thoughts are just about, well, first of all, the Allemande feeling of this dance, yeah. You know, Allemande is a bit of a sort of, I don't know, a bit of an odd case with these Baroque dances because it's kind of a slow dance. We don't know as much about it as like Sarabande, you know, all this kind of thing. But I think you can really try to go a bit more with the release, like the buoyant feeling of like da 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 bum ba, rather than sustaining through as quite as much as you are. I mean, I know there's some stylistic things about how, you know, all the different ways of approaching this music. Yeah. I think even with a modern instrument and playing with a strong sound, I think you can explore having a bit more of that. And also, I think the other thing to play around with in this movement is the feeling of the meter in being a 4/4. And sometimes to really use that, like da 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 3 4 da 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 da, yeah. And then there's some phrases where he's actually going a little bit, not against the meter, but over the meter, yeah. And to, yeah, play with those. Like there's some phrases go da 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 da, 2 and 3, yeah. To let yourself linger between phrases when they're not in quite the expected spot, but to use that meter for that sense of weight and lift more, so that yeah, so it's not just kind of a constant through line, yeah, because otherwise, I mean, you're playing it very well. I just think that's the feeling to go for more. Do you want to try some of the first half with me?
The first half? Sure.
Yeah, and I'll stop you if. Yeah, good. I decided to let you play through because I could tell you're trying some things, which I heard. It's good. You know, I mean, it's interesting to me, like your approach to the piece is a little more kind of rich and I don't know, earlier 20th century or something than I would, but it still can work. I think as long as you give it this, still have the dance feeling. So yeah. I like what you were just doing. I think also if you make sure, especially right at the beginning, that the tempo just keeps moving, not to get too broad. Yeah, I mean, you were basically doing those shapes too, but just to kind of, so we have this, because you know, if it's a dance, there's a certain regularity, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that you're saying this because generally I go for more Baroque approach, but I don't think I found that here. I don't think I found what I want exactly or how to make it. I mean, because you said, it's an awkward dance,
Yeah.
that's not really, as lively as a Coran or a Gigue.
Yeah.
So it's just a little bit of uncertainty there.
Yeah, for sure. Like it has almost a little, and also when some people play it, it has more of a feeling of some kind of prelude movement.
Yeah, almost.
Really like a dance. But I think it is in there if you find this way to shape it. Yeah, good. That's really the basic thing. But I would also say when you get to ba da da ba ba da da ba. I mean, I love how you're making it more lively. I find it personally right now a little bit sudden, the change.
Okay.
Maybe there's a way to bridge from between what's before and into that. Yeah, or to be just a little rounder in the articulation.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that was my feeling about that. But, yeah, on the whole, that's my feeling about it. But I would say think of the lighter, like think longer, a bit longer shapes. So like ya da 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 da. So you can think lighter at the ends of those kinds of things. Yeah.
What's your suggestion for executing longer shapes in general in this moment?
Well, executing or
physically.
Well, not to get too it's really thinking about where the weight is, and then really letting yourself release in some of these, because a lot of us, especially like violinists, we all tend to learn so much about creating a nice singing sustained tone, but to let go of that a bit, so even though not that and to be willing to let a note just and not feel like but then we get into a more kind of romantic era sort of use of the bow. And to let the bow just sit on the string a little bit more, and not and then also I always say with Bach, I mean, if we're to work on this through more, it's also just like the harmony leads everything. And he's so remarkable with, I mean, his harmony is really sophisticated. It's not just basic harmony, it's all these ways he's leading you, and to really go with that, so that's really shaping your melodic line. Really pay attention to where he's going. And now it's suspended. Oh, now it's releasing. And so keep it going and not get into all these little rhythmic groupings, but follow the harmony more.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be my suggestion. Okay, you want to play the Gigue?
Sure.
Yeah.
Should I not take a repeat or?
I don't, it's up to you. I think we're going over anyway, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. Yeah, great. Sounds great. I think I would just make sure, I mean, you're playing, it sounds like you have a great détaché and so very, lovely energy in it. And I also like how you have quite a bit of freedom in your pulse in a certain way. But, well, first of all, I would, at some points, make sure that we do still feel the pulse and not let it get too running through these sequences, that it just becomes kind of moto perpetual kind of thing. But we always have this Gigue going on. And then one thing is something that you're doing a lot through it is you're lengthening often the first note, and then sort of speeding up the rest of it. And it works sometimes fine, but I feel like you might not want to do it quite so much all through the movement, yeah, because then it starts to just be a mannerism or whatever. I mean, at first, like I thought it's very effective, but I think sometimes try to be a little more like let it roll. Yeah, just so you're aware of that. And the opening of each half, actually, it's again the feeling of in 4, like the Allemande was also in 4. Right? So you really start off with something that feels really grounded. Yeah. And that's all we have of those little melodies, right? But just to like start it off in a really hearty, grounded way, and then it will spin off from that. I felt like for both halves, you can, dig into that more.
Okay,
yeah. But it sounds great. Yeah. Thank you. You want to try a little bit, the opening?
Yeah, sure. Should take a beginning?
Yeah, we just a couple minutes, so yeah. Yeah, good. I was feeling a little bit more your pulse. Those places where it comes out of the long out of the long slur, and then when you have a beat after it, I think it's GE.
Yeah.
Just to mark the beat a little bit will help.
Okay.
Just for the ear, for listeners, like that we were like, oh yeah, here we are, where our beat is. And there's a small thing right at the beginning. This is just my taste probably, but da 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 dum on the third beat to have a little. I actually do it the other bowing.
Yeah.
I feel like it's nice to have a little up rather than da.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, it's great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.